What's up, guys? Michael here, bringing another video today. Today, I am so happy to be doing another episode of Chew on This. It has been a minute. We just had Brian on last week. I don't know when I'm going to re-uploading these yet. I'm trying to get a little backlog of them going so I could start prepping my other videos into production. And I'm just so unbelievably excited today to be bringing on a filmmaker, the creator of Nerdcore. And this man is just one of exquisite taste. And as I've gotten to know him, I've been introduced to so many more films and my eyes have been opened. So I have to thank this man, Raúl Alejandro Mendoza, aka the Nerdy Chicano. What is up, brother? How's it going?
What's going on, man? Doing all right. It's a quite the wonderful Wednesday evening now. I'm guessing afternoonish. But thank you for getting me on the show, man, and thank you for your kind words. It means a lot. And it's been a really fun time getting to know you too, man. Getting to show you some movies. Of
Absolutely.
course, I'm always going on about One Core Y with Aaron. So I'm glad that we got you to get you on that.
Oh,
But
absolutely. Well,
I'm
we're
just
definitely going to get into that as we go on in this episode. I'm excited to talk about that as well, man. I always like to ask guests, what's the last movie you just saw, man?
all right. If you would let me, I'm going to go ahead and check my letterbox real quick
Absolutely,
because
absolutely.
I watch a lot of stuff. So like
Dude,
my
I
head,
see you on Letterbox just constantly going off with new things,
yeah,
man, and stuff I always add to my watch list. I've never heard of these things most of
yeah.
the time, you know. So
I watched Federico Fellini's 1973 film Amarcord, Italian film that won the best foreign language film. It was the last one that he made that would win the what's it called, the best foreign language film at the Oscars. I did that for a review that we haven't done because it's currently snowing in Arizona
oh wow, okay.
and internet is down for my
Mm.
co-host. So we had to postpone that. But later on today or tomorrow, I have to watch One Night in Miami for a review.
Exciting. I'm gonna try to watch that after we get done here because I have
Yeah.
so many 2020 flicks that I'm still catching up on. I just
Yeah.
saw Wolf Walkers was the last movie I saw, and I definitely
Mhm.
recommend that. I ended up giving it a perfect score. Snuck up on me. I didn't expect it to be that amazing or enthralling, but it's Apple TV original. It's an animated film. I haven't seen this studio's previous two films, which I've also heard amazing things about, but I would definitely recommend checking that out if you're closing out your 2020 list soon.
Yeah. No, I had closed out my 2020 list at the end of the 2020,
Oh,
but
really?
I
Really?
kept, I kept, well, I closed it out as in like that was the video I made, and I said, hey, these
Mm,
were my favorites. I watched Minari. That one ended up jumping into number two.
amazing film.
And
Yeah.
but I have not watched Wolfwalkers yet. I do have access to it, so I need to get to watching it soon. But One Night in Miami will be the next one, and I'm thinking next week we'll see what's up because we do have a possible screener for a student film that we decided we were going
Awesome.
to watch and review because they're buddies of ours. So we'll see what's up. But
Yeah. Oh,
yeah,
congrats to them, man, for pushing out their student film, and I can't wait to hear what you got to say about that because I know you'll have thoughts, undoubtedly.
yeah. Yeah, they're gonna have it available on Amazon Prime to stream. So,
You want to give it a
for,
plug? What's the title?
yeah, for those of you who will be listening to this like later on in the year or later on in the month or whatever, um, Curse of Professor Zardonicus, written and directed by Gabriel Theiss. So it was all shot at my university. Most of it was shot at my university, and basically ragtag filmmakers that basically, crowdfunded a feature length film, and they got their film done, and they got it distributed into Amazon Prime Video,
That's awesome.
and we're
Wow.
reviewing it earlier for them. So the Curse of Professor Zardonicus, it's going to be available on Amazon Prime Video, and we're going to be reviewing it before what's it called before it comes out. But had to go ahead and help out my UHLM.
That's so exciting, man. That is unbelievably exciting, and I want to get into your films and your filmmaking. What got you into filmmaking? But first, I
Yeah,
feel
man.
like we gotta go back and just start with where did your love for film originate? Can you pinpoint it in years and a certain experience, perhaps?
I mean, us as children were always, enthralled by, what's called visual stuff.
Mm,
We had toys from the, you have your toys, and from there you're like you start using them, And at a certain age, like you start creating these like sort of like concepts and sort of like little things where you're like, oh, this toy is this, and and they're doing this,
Yeah.
and this toy is gonna start doing something like that. And so I feel like there's where I would like, start showing my insight into like what was interesting me about storytelling. But film, of course, when I was a kid, I'm the story that I'm always given is that I would bawl my eyes out when I was a child, and I was watching Lion King. And even though even though I don't care for that movie much anymore as a young as
Mm.
an adult, but as a kid, you was like, you would bawl your eyes out
Oh,
when.
it's and when you're a kid, it's absolutely so
Yeah,
riveting.
yeah,
It's the best thing.
yeah. Yeah. So, they also have a story about that with my brother, like when Bambi's mom gets shot, and
Yeah.
Bambi, like he balls his eyes out in that film when he was a child. But like, I guess that would be mine, just there starting as a young kid being shown these films and actually having these like very humane types of emotions for a child
Mm.
who can barely even process what the world is around him. I think that that's kind of my first instance where I was like, oh yeah, I love movies.
Yeah, okay. That's awesome. I think you might be the first guest that's actually brought animation into how they that came to
Mhm.
be. But honestly, that's where a lot of us start. I mean, same thing, right? I grew up on a bunch of Disney VHSs, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? And that's
I still
before,
got them here,
yeah,
man.
me too, right on my bookshelf. And that's before, the
Mhm.
love of film, when I really began to understand what film was. That's where it starts, and that's where that seed gets developed. So I'm glad that you mentioned that. Do you think that growing up with those types of films and that type of whimsical mystique in your earlier years, and I know you've said now, and obviously I know your film taste now is drastically different from that.
Drastically different, yeah.
Yeah, drastically different. When do you think that change began? I mean, obviously we all grow up and we all grow old, but specifically I'd
Mhm.
like to ask you, I mean, you know I mean, I like I said earlier, man. You bring up directors that I have never even heard of with brilliant
Yeah.
films, with directors that have like 80 or 90 films under their belt that I've never heard of. So when did the
Mhm.
love for international films begin?
So I would and it's gonna sound pretty what's it called? Like we're I was a kid who grew up on the border. He had access to Mexican television. So anytime my grandmother wasn't watching like novelas and stuff like that, she was watching classical Mexican films. So as a child, what we in the culture now, we're not in the culture, but we as we Mexican people, we refer to it as the
Mm,
golden age of Mexican cinema, and that's what all critics refer to it as well. So you had your films by Pedro Infante, you had Cantinflas and stuff like that. So there's where I started watching. But to me, I never had a sense of like, oh, this was different. This was
mm,
from a different place because I'm just a kid who's watching it. Like I was thinking, and still to an extent, I don't consider Mexican cinema to be foreign to me. It's
yeah,
very
absolutely. I get you.
part of me. It's
Yeah.
it's if anything, I'll consider American films more foreign to me because
Mm,
Mexican cinema was what I grew up more around. So what's it called? Like I'm telling you right now, like I watched more like more Mexican films before I ever got the chance to watch something like Fight Club, which is the freaking poster you have in back of you.
absolutely.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so to me, my first bout with international films, if you want to go into it, like basically what's it called, to the bread and butter of it, sure, it was when I was a kid watching Golden Age cinema of Mexico.
Mm,
But I would say also, once my brother starts introducing me to more like contemporary Mexican cinema. So the Motorcycle Diaries, Amores Perros, y Tu Mamá También. But then in college, I took a what's it called, a course for introduction to French cinema, and I watched Jean-Luc Godard. I watched all these other films, and I get introduced to Francois Truffaut.
yeah.
I do one of my projects I do is on Matthew Kozovitz, La Haine, 1995, with Vincent Cassel. So then I start really getting introduced into like French New Wave and contemporary French cinema, and then from there I start looking into like Italian, and then I kind of get going more and more. But so I guess like if you want to put like a specific pinpoint on it, I
Mm,
would say that college was around the time that I really started to get into international cinema,
mm.
during my first 2 semesters. But yeah, because before that it was basically just Mexican films and American.
Okay, yeah. I'm gonna follow up that question by asking you then.
Oh,
Oh, go
wait.
for it. Go for it.
And also as a child with Hayao Miyazaki Spirited Away.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I'm not sure how deep into anime you are as well,
Yeah.
but I
Oh,
mean,
I
that
love
was
anime, bro.
yeah, exactly. That
Yeah.
was a big part of my Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah.
Was a
Yeah.
huge part of my childhood. So those seeds, once again, we go back to those seeds of animation, getting planted,
Mhm.
and how that's changed throughout the years as well.
Yeah, DBZ, Trigun, Mobile Suit Gundam,
Gundam's
anything,
awesome.
anything, anything that wasn't freaking on freaking Toonami, Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, Full Metal Alchemist. That I guess, yeah, I guess you can put it there. That because that was Japanese, but
Mhm.
of course they were showing us the English dub,
Yeah,
but we were still watching to an extent Japanese media.
yeah. Which is insane to think about because I really haven't thought about any of this kind of stuff until you and I are talking about it now. But
Mm-hmm.
it really does go all the way back to Cartoon Network days when we're sitting there in front of
Yeah,
the TV with the Flash games and everything. It's
yeah.
insane. And as you've grown older now, I mean, I don't know when this began. I don't know if this is you went to college to do this. Hey, what's your major in college? If you don't mind me asking, real quick.
So this is my last semester. I will be
Mhm.
graduating with a degree in media production
Okay.
and with a minor in Mexican American studies.
Okay. Awesome. Awesome. So
Yeah.
have
But that's not
has
what I started with.
okay.
Yeah.
Let me, dude. I mean, we've all had our own college journeys, which have been. I mean, I've changed my major now as well. So please tell us, man. Where did it begin?
So I started off at my first university with as a chemical engineering major.
Okay.
Um, and then after the first semester, I hadn't made an official change, but I was like, oh, well, you know what? I hate engineering. I hate it. And I'm obviously not happy with it and all this stuff. Right. So then I decided, well, you know what? Let's go ahead and see if I'll go down like chemistry. I'll still work somewhat with chemistry. I just don't want to be doing more so of the, math. And I was like, oh no, I fucking hate this too. This is, by
Yeah.
the way, wow. Am I able to curse
Oh,
on here?
absolutely. Yeah, you're good, man.
Yeah,
Continue,
because I've
please.
got to quiet the mouth on me. Sorry, and I just hit my microphone too. But I, I was like, oh, I fucking hate this.
Mhm.
There's no way I'm gonna try to do something like this. And I had a couple of friends who were like, oh, I'm doing here at undisclosed university number one, where I was doing like, they were like, oh, I'm doing like electronic media production. I'm like, the hell's that? Like, and they're like, oh, like we're working on this and this, and we're like, and I was like, are you kind of working with like films and stuff? And I was like, they're like, well, kind of, we're talking more about like the communication of side of that. And I'm like, what? Explain to me, what the hell are you talking about?
let me know. Yeah, man.
Yeah,
Once you hear
well, I
film in the
finished.
equation, you got to know.
Yeah, I was like, well, around that time, I was like, oh man, I really love film, and I love to discuss it. I love. And then around that time is when I started making like YouTube vlogs and stuff. So I was working on editing and stuff and like that. But my time at undisclosed university number one finished, and I went to undisclosed university number two.
Mhm.
And there I go in and I'm doing mass production, mass communications. And first, like what I wanted was not what was being offered there. So I went in there with the need to want to do with me wanting to do more so production based stuff,
Gotcha.
but that wasn't what my school offered, you
Mhm.
know. And I understand, whatever the reason may be, most of it funding, but I took intro to French cinema, I took um, history of film noir.
That sounds like an awesome
Um,
class.
yeah, they were really good classes. But I met a wonderful woman named Suzanne Lalonde, who was my introduction to French literature uh, professor. And we would, I of course I was kind of a terrible student. I rarely read my stuff, but and I barely passed. But she gave me the opportunity to make my debut short film, Immortal, which I directed and shot with a guy in my group who wrote the script for it and basically what's it called narrated it. It was basically seeing, you know we were looking at leaves on trees and how some leaves die in the fall, but some don't.
Yes,
And
it very Malik vibes watching it as
yeah,
well, which I commend you guys for. It's awesome.
I thank you for that compliment, but it was very like, what goes on when you don't think about the existence
Mhm.
of things that you believe are non-living, but in a sense they are living. So we did that, but I wouldn't be able to get an actual film, production, major until I, what's it called, went on to my current university, what's it called, undisclosed university number 3. And I'm graduating there, and I've been working on a lot of cool stuff. And while I was in number 2, I worked on a documentary called Bloodline as well that I did
Which
for
we'll definitely get into because I want to know more about that as well.
my intro to Mexican Americans, my Mexican American studies class. I did that one, but once I came over here to my 3rd university where I'm currently at and going to graduate from, I did most of the work that you see now on my YouTube channel.
Which you have a great catalog of stuff, and I'd recommend anybody going to check that out. Just if you want to get to know more about Raúl, man. Yeah, absolutely. I like I said, I saw Bloodline, and we're gonna get into that. And I saw that first film as well. Very awesome stuff. Immortal was great. But I want to start with what I want to thank you for also is we messaged prior to jumping into this for weeks. We've been trying to do this for a while. And you've been very open and candid about talking about your visual impairment. And I want to kind of talk about how not only that's affected obviously you behind the lens, but in how you craft characters in your stories and what you aim to put into your characters and stories. Does that have anything to do with it? Does it have any impact on that?
I would say to an extent. By the way, that's a really good question that you're asking. I've never
Thank
had
you.
anybody ask me something around there. If you've noticed, most of my characters, especially if you're talking about my upcoming short, my characters have obstacles. I think that it's imperative that a character has an obstacle in a film. If your character doesn't have an obstacle, then what's driving them towards resolving the conflict.
Absolutely.
So, I haven't wrote disabled characters, but I do write characters from marginalized communities.
Yeah.
As I am one of them, I am one from a marginalized community, but I would say that my characters don't per se come from obstacles like impairments, but the idea of a big obstacle that needs to be overcome is there, whether it's an internal or an external obstacle. So usually, of course, a lot of my characters, if you saw my recent one, The Dead Don't Speak, my character is depressed and they're suicidal, and that one it's more of an internal obstacle. So yeah, I would guess that I kind of bring these like sort of major obstacles to the characters, but nothing yet to where it's something like a disability. I'll be honest with you, I just haven't cracked I haven't cracked that script yet. And
I feel you.
it's something so personal to me. It's something that I haven't, cracked yet.
And you want to get it perfect, obviously.
Yeah.
With something like that. Have you seen any films that you feel like respectfully have done that in a way that you found fitting and appropriate?
Sound of Metal. Last year, Sound of Metal really did it.
Which I want to catch still. I still haven't seen it. I got to see that.
Yeah. That, and I'm not hearing impaired. Of course I'm not, because I can hear you right now. But that was a movie where I felt like it didn't really like, how can I say this? It didn't glorify or make you pity the character for their impairment. More so, it had to make you come to terms with the fact that this person will never get this fixed, and they just need to learn to accept themselves before the world can accept them, because the world outside will possibly never accept them.
Yeah.
And I think that film did it with so much love and care for the community, while also casting within the community as well, and showcasing actors with impairments, with hearing impairments. So I will say that Sound of Metal for sure.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, I still got to check that out. I haven't been lucky enough to have the time to sit and watch a full 2-hour movie in a little bit. So, but after hearing that review, man, I must see it. Everyone's been telling me amazing things about it.
I loved it, dude.
Yeah, I gotta see
loved
it.
it too. Yeah.
I have to see it. And I love Riz Ahmed, so I'm doing myself a disservice, honestly, by not checking
Yeah.
it out. Going back to your filmmaking though, real quick before we jump into specific shorts and also future projects, I want to ask you, what do you prefer between writing and directing? Do you have a preference?
I'm gonna sound like the typical director, but like I would like to direct the things I write.
Yeah, absolutely.
Unless like let's say it's somebody who I'm really close with and I understand their style and I understand what they want, I would direct the script that they write. But like, you know, as you can tell, as of right now, I'm mostly directed stuff that I've written. And it's not that I haven't seeked out people to, direct their scripts. It's just like I haven't found anything where I can trust myself to provide a vision that they would write, because I feel like there is this odd kind of a belief that when you write you don't have a vision for the film,
Yeah,
which I believe is wrong. I think every writer is sort of a director in a sense, because
I
they
agree.
already
Yeah.
have an idea. They already have an idea of what they want their movie to be like and what they want their movie to feel like. The director is the person who can put that on screen and finally put that to work. But as of right now, no, I have not done anything that I haven't written, and I prefer that.
Mhm.
But maybe I'm gonna finally find somebody who gives me a script that I can say like, wow, like yeah, like this is something that I know you really well, and I know what style you like to go for. So let's go ahead and work on that together. I know that my friend Kelvin is just doing that right now with his with my friend Devin's script for A Monkey's Paw, and they're working on that. So, you know, I want to get to that position.
Yeah.
It's just that I haven't found anybody yet who has told me like, hey man, look, here's a script and I want you to direct it. And it takes a lot of not just trusting the writer, but trusting myself as well.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you feel as though there are, even when adapting, like let's just say your own scripts, do you feel as though it's harder to approach direction versus writing when translating like your thoughts or your vision to actors or to other people on set?
Yeah. Well, there's always going to be a big disconnect between the actor and the director. I think that especially when the director is your writer too,
Yeah.
because in your mind you have, okay, this is the way I want it to be shown, but this isn't the way that I wrote it. You know,
Mhm.
I so there was something I kept. I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna go skipping ahead a lot right here, but it's because it's the most freshest in my mind.
Please.
Um, on set for before I leave, I constantly would remind the girl Angie Sandoval, who was playing Brianna. I would constantly go towards her and tell her, we're here at this specific scene, but you can't act like just a partner to her. You are acting as her anchor who doesn't know how to approach the situation that she's in,
Mhm.
because this is not the life that you lived. You grew up disconnected from your you grew up disconnected from your culture because you were what's the word I'm trying to say here, you were disowned by your family.
Mhm.
So I need you to come from the place of I want to help you, but I can't. And me being here is all the help I can give you, but I wish I could give you more. But this is all I can give you. So from there, I go into two different sides of my brain. I'm telling you, this is the character I wrote,
Mhm.
but this is the way I need you to approach it. So
Which
that's
okay, yeah.
direction.
Uh-huh.
So it's writing mixed with direction a bit.
Yeah, and I mean it takes a good amount of, first of all, I mean, you seem like a very good communicator. It
Yeah.
doesn't shock me that you're able to get these things on the screen to your
I've
liking,
learned
you know?
I've learned from a great amount of people. I owe a lot of it to Michael Grossman, who, what's it called? He was a filmmaker from Hollywood who
Mhm.
he was the assistant director on the first Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles
Oh
film.
wow, okay.
He what's it called? He directed the opening fight scene. He's done other films. He's done a bunch of TV shows and stuff. He's a workhorse, but one thing that he told me when I met with him for my classes when we were talking was like, never shut out the actor. After you yell cut, do not look at the camera. Right off the bat, go with the actor. Talk to
Wow.
them. actors are very insecure people, so they need to get your notes. So, if it was just simply like, I love the scene, we are doing great, we're gonna do another take, but that's because we want to get safety shots. I go do that. Or simply like, okay, I really liked what you did there. Let's try to do the next take. You never want to say but. You never want to say but. But is the worst thing you can tell an actor, because it's
Okay.
saying like, hey, this was great, but it was kind of
I
shit.
understand.
You
Yeah.
don't want to say that. You want to say, hey, you did a great job there. Let's do another one where you give me more of this instead of what you were doing here. I liked it. Let's just try to get another shot of that.
Wow. And I'm sure your actors appreciate that too. Cause I mean,
Yeah.
we hear stories all the time of directors that aren't exactly the kindest in this business. So I mean, it's very not. I shouldn't say it's commendable, because the decent
It's the
thing to
bare
do is to be
minimum.
nice people. Exactly. But
Yeah.
I appreciate that, and I can get that vibe off you that you're a genuine guy. So it's good to see that you're
Yeah.
doing big moves, man. You touched on it very briefly, but we'll just go there first. Before I leave. I was happy to contribute to this project. It seems like it's a very personal project to you.
Mm.
I'm excited to see it. First of all, tell us how that Indiegogo campaign began, and go into why you wanted to make this film, man.
Well, the campaign began because, well, simply, I do not have the gear I need. And
Mhm.
I'm going to have to do another round of crowdfunding
Okay.
for our May shoot because, well, let's go. You got to believe it when you see it, man. You burned through a bit of that budget. And
I'm
we
sure.
have,
Yeah.
we have some left, but it's not enough to rent the gear that we got.
Mhm.
We need lights. Um, we need cards for my friend's red camera. We need a Teradeck so we can see things on the monitor. Like, we'll be able to get stuff from the school. That I'm glad that my school and my professor allow me to grab the stuff that I need. But we don't have an RE Sky panel, which was one of the lights we used on set. Love that light. It's a
Mhm.
beautiful light. Costs a crap ton of money, but it's a beautiful light. We don't have that. So we needed money first for gear. Second, we needed it because I knew that for them to approach, for my actors to approach this project, there had to be sort of, there has to be a monetary,
Of course.
price involved.
Yeah.
There has to be compensation, and also I'm asking them to come from Houston all the way down to where I'm at. So, I had to give them, say like, hey, you're gonna drive down here, but I'm gonna pay you $100 for every day that you're on set. You know, And even then, on the third day, when there was only one scene left where I didn't need the other actress, she still got her money. That was her day that she's contracted for. You know,
Mhm.
it's just we needed the money for people who were acting. Of course, some of my crew were comfortable with not taking a payment because they got their hotel paid for, which was paid for through the budget. Or some of them were just like, nah, man, I just really like the experience of being here. I don't need money right now. Like, you give me enough of what you gave me here. I'm good with us putting that away. But so that's why the campaign, because we needed the money for gear, for compensation. We also need it for post production. So the money. So right now we have a little bit left of the score. Not score. I'm sorry. Well, I have money left, which we want to put into possibly a score for the film. But we also have money that we need to put forward towards film festival funds. So when we run this to festivals, and we have to do that, and that stuff costs money. So it's just money that I couldn't have. I would love to just film this
Of course. Yeah.
ragtag style, no lights or anything, but having that extra gear adds a little bit of a stylism that I wanted to add to this. It's what I wanted to do with Beyond the River, but obviously I couldn't get done with it because of a lot of things that went down. So I wanted to do it with this one, and kind of, you know, things cost money. So I had
Yeah.
to, run
Sadly.
that campaign.
And were you, I mean, I saw the outpouring of support for you. You have a lot of friends here, man, and a lot of people
Yeah.
that love you. How did that feel, man? I mean, I can't imagine how, like, that first big wave of donations. I mean, I can't
Yeah.
imagine.
So like, it's kind of the same way I talked about when Nerdcore made the Patreon, right? I was like, okay, I'm not even expecting one person to even pledge like $1 to us. I'm
Yeah.
like, it's gonna be there. If you want to go there, you can go there. When I got like 5 people, I was like, you guys are fucking crazy. I would not pay me to do things like I would not pay me to do this. So when I put that thing up, I was like, it made me come to terms with a couple of things. it made me come to terms that I have an audience. And that's crazy. You know, like 4 years working in what I do, what's called making these podcasts, making these reviews. Never did I actually believe that I had an audience. I'm completely false. I was completely false. I have an audience. I have an audience. I have an audience and I have a platform. Second of all, I made me come to terms with the fact that so many people are so generous. People that I barely knew for like a month. You know, I barely knew Aaron for a month. In no right mind should Aaron give me $100 for just knowing me for a month. Like, come on. And then of course, you know, I had, you know, the help from my family who was giving me an incredible amount of money. But then people who I barely even shared a word with, like Tamer, fucking $1,000, man. Like,
insane.
In no world should Tamer be giving me that money. But guess what? That made me realize one other thing. People believe in me. People believe in the vision that I have.
Absolutely.
They want me to make my things come true. And it's very heartwarming. And it's something that I said it when we got fully funded. I don't know how this will end up, but I'm going to try my damn hardest to give you guys the movie that you deserve. I don't care. At the end of the day, we're going to run this for festivals. If it doesn't win an award, I don't give a shit. I want one festival to screen my film. That's all I want. I want a festival to screen my film. I don't care if I get an award.
Yeah.
But I just want to make the movie that, first of all, the people that in my life who I thought about when I wrote the script, I want them to be proud of it. But I also want the people like you all who contributed to be proud of it. So that's all I cared for. And it made me realize that, like, you know, like people care. And as much as my brain would love to tell me on days that I'm not feeling the best, that nobody cares about my work, I have that damn page on Indiegogo to remind me, like, hey, dude, people believe in your work.
People do, man. Yeah, people do. And I feel that on a deep level. Touching on that very briefly, I remember just a few years ago, posting YouTube videos and even getting like a comment, you know, like my mind is even blown that someone even sat through and listened to my thoughts on, you know, Run All Night, whatever movie from back then, you know. It's insane. And I'm so proud of you, man. I mean, we're not super close. We're not best friends or anything like that. I'm not going to lie to these people, but I mean, I am proud of you. We do know each other. I would consider you a friend of mine, and it's great to see that
you're a friend of mine too, bro.
And it's great to see that you're doing this, man. I want to ask you, in approaching this story, I mean, obviously it requires a lot of tact, and a lot of careful writing in terms of both the sexuality aspect, the gender aspect, and the racial and cultural aspect of that. Maybe you can touch on how you first came up with this idea and what did you want to make sure that you achieved by making this?
So, how I approach the idea, I've always been interested in sexuality. You know, even in its, if you go more so to the extreme routes, I mean, I'm very much somebody who's interested in eroticism and its portrayal on film, but sexuality has always been something that's interested me. And so, like, you know, how we develop it, how it plays into culture, especially as being someone who is from a specific culture. I was wondering, like, you know, because I've grown up around the conversation about it, and, you know, you've heard all the comments you can hear, like, you know, my culture is very backwards with it. So I wanted to approach that and talk about basically how it would feel to have to confront your culture and your sexuality at the same time, which two things that on paper shouldn't mix, but they do. Yeah. And the way that I approached it, first, it was of course it was supposed to be shot last year, because it was my final assignment for my Latino psychology course. And I was supposed to shoot it, but the pandemic hit in March, and I told my professor, I would love to shoot this, but there's no way I'm going to be able to shoot this right now with what's going down. There wasn't even production guidelines being set down by the state of Texas. So, like,
wow, yeah,
we barely had gotten into what's it called, the pandemic. Well, all I know is that there was a stay-at-home order, and that was it. Like, there was no production guidelines. Like, now I'm glad that I waited, because we get to do it safely now.
Absolutely.
But my professor was like, well, you could, take stills from different movies or make like cutouts with characters. And I was like, respectfully, ma'am, this is a story that I truly believe in, and I really want to, what's it called, film this. I don't want to put that on my film. And I'll give you a screenplay analysis. I'll do 5 pages analyzing all the themes that I'm hitting. I'll give you and everything you need, but I don't want to film this the way that you're telling me, because to me it's a
Mhm.
disservice to the community, because I can truly do something big with this, that I wanted to, give the opportunity to others to have as their experience, but also be able to, say like, I made this.
Yeah.
So then when I approached it the next semester, it was my independent study with one of my mentors. Um, the first thing that I knew right off the bat, even before I even thought about shooting this, I need to get consultants within the LGBTQ plus community,
Absolutely.
consultants who are also Latino. So I sent it out to, what's it called, a couple of people. One of my consultants is Sabrina Ramirez. She read it. She had great words to say. One of the main questions I've asked every single, what's it called, every single consultant was, it never does it ever feel predatory? Does it ever feel like it's not coming from a place of a place of having respect for the community, but also the medium?
Mhm.
Because it is so simple for us to approach this as just two dudes who want to see girls make out on camera.
Sure. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. So each one of them said, no, it feels like a beautiful script. It feels very accurate. It feels like it's very respectful towards the community. So then the next step after that was to make sure that we had an intimacy coordinator on set, because what what we are used to is an interpretation of the male gaze upon women. So a scene that I would depict of two women, being intimate, is not going to be the same thing as if it's coming from an actual woman who loves a woman,
Yeah.
or what's it called,
Absolutely.
or any other person. So I had to get somebody who would be on that set, who was also my DP, who would say, like, I asked them after every shot that they kiss, I was like, is that natural? And he goes, oh yeah, it's like if they're a couple, like, it feels really real.
Mhm.
Of course, one of our more tougher scenes is going to come, in May, when we actually shoot the conflict that happens. So that will be much more interesting to see how we can portray that. But still, of course, when I approach that, I will have a closed set. It will only be the DP, me, sound, and that's it. Nobody else is going to be allowed. It's just
Yeah.
going to be us three and the actresses. So that way it can be as safe and secure as it can be. And make sure that nobody else can have access to a monitor or anything, because it's just going to be us. So we had to do it like that. But then I also said I wanted to cast brown gay women. The tough part there is that not everybody is comfortable being out yet.
Yeah.
So it was not my place to ask if, hey, are you out? Because I want to make sure that I'm casting accurately.
Yeah.
It's not my place. That's not, because I don't want to accidentally out someone when I release this and I say, my two actresses here are gay.
Mhm.
And they're like, hey, I wasn't ready to come out.
Yeah.
So, but I did cast Latinas. I cast a brown woman, and we've had all these other who are in the culture, and I cast it accurately there. Just it was tough. It was tough to do the other part, because
I'm
that
sure.
was in my space, and it made my DP laugh. But I was like, I'm not gonna go there, sit down first day on the table read and say, hey, are you gay?
Yeah.
No, like that's it's not my place to ask that.
Yeah. But I,
But
I
then
am I am glad that you're taking. I mean, it is bold and it is brave to tackle a story like this.
yeah,
And I can't imagine the pressure that comes with that. So I commend you for that, and that in itself is a feat. And like you said, you're going for one festival. I believe that that's going to happen, and regardless of what happens beyond that, you've already accomplished so much by doing this and cultivating a safe space and cultivating buzz around this and appreciation for this kind of storytelling. And I think we need more stories like this, more intimate
yeah.
stories of this nature. Yeah. I wanted to ask you, going back to your other shorts now, Bloodline, man. That was the first thing that I saw of yours. And it absolutely blew me away. And not to go back on what I said earlier, and not to make it sound like I'm just tooting your horn or whatever, but
Yeah.
I definitely could feel the Malik vibes coming from Bloodline as well, man. A lot of the scenery shots, I love it. But what is, to me, what I loved about it, and it's very simple, if you don't mind me saying so, is just how you were so, I don't know if it's necessarily, and this is, I'm sure you can elaborate more on this. I don't know if it's just how you framed the questions or how you prepared your family members to answer your questions, if you prepared them at all, even. But the element of immigrant mentality and the resolve that all of you have is just shown through their words. Like, it's not even necessarily what they're talking about, it's just how they're talking about it. And I think it's such a well-crafted short. And I want to ask you, have you ever thought about doing a story with your family in a cinematic style or a full-length documentary, or is this just what you want to leave it as for the time being?
So I guess because it was really hard to. So first of all, I'm gonna go ahead and answer something that you asked there.
Mhm.
I didn't prepare them. I just said, well, I didn't prepare them like extensively. I
Mhm.
had them come. I told her like, hey, I mean, I'm gonna ask you about these things. Just give me what's it called. Give me the answers you can give me. Mic them up. Set the camera up. There we go. Let's go. My little brother did the same thing with my little brother.
Yeah.
My grandpa did the same thing with my grandpa. And I'm a big fan of of course I'm a big fan of Martin Scorsese. He has a short called Italian Americans where
Mhm.
he just what's it called where he's basically interviewing his parents while his mom is while Catherine Scorsese is making spaghetti and meatballs. And I had always thought about like, doing something kind of like that, or so just sitting down and like doing like a short or like a a feature has my grandfather just tours around his property and around the city, and we discuss his life growing up and
Wow.
how he
Yeah.
felt and doing stuff like that. But of course, those are things that I'm kind of considering post before I leave, because well, some of the greatest advice I've been getting as of late from one of my mentors is that like, you need to be working on stuff between your projects, because you can't just, dive your head into just one thing and leave everything off to the side.
Absolutely.
Like,
Yeah.
no, but so that's something that I'm looking towards, after I finish this one, because I think that this one is requiring a little bit more of my attention. But at the same time, I'm not stopping my head from thinking about other projects, but it's also stuff that I would like to, work on after. But
Mhm.
they're so I guess I'll give you some information here that I wasn't planning on releasing anytime soon. There was
Hey, please,
supposed
to your own
yeah
leisure, man. To your own leisure.
so Bloodline was supposed to be a two-part series. So
Interesting.
there was Bloodline and Borderlands. Bloodline examines my family's place within the border. Borderlands was supposed to examine the area that they grew up in. So I would,
Okay.
talk about how it felt to be from here, how it felt to what's it called, work here, how it felt to kind of feel like you were not from one place or the other because you grew up in this space that is between us. It fell through because I threw myself at other things, and also just I at one point I looked at that script and I was like, it this just doesn't feel like me anymore, because
Mm.
it was done at a younger age. I was like 21, now
Okay.
23. I had put it off to the side for too long. But also the whole idea of what I consider Latinidad to be now, it's like, I don't know how to approach this anymore from where I am now. So I was just like, I think I'm just gonna leave Bloodline as it was, just one and done, and leave it like that, and just
Mhm.
uh, admire it for what it was. But I'm still, very much looking forward to possibly doing more documentary based. Um,
Mhm.
I shot a documentary last, 2 semesters ago in 2019. about, educational, what's it called, educational segregation in Houston. I sadly do not have the film to show you that because the editor has not sent us our file. And even though I would love to see it,
Sure,
it was
yeah.
more so of a, it wasn't as, poetic in a sense as a Bloodline. It was very much like how a documentary usually is. So
Yeah.
in the future, I would like to more so kind of go through that type of approach of a documentary, more of like what you saw in Bloodline, more so, influenced by the works of like Agnes Varda and Abbas Kiarostami,
Hmm.
the way that they would approach documentaries.
Hmm. I
Mhm.
mean, yeah, I would love to see that. I'm sure a lot of people would love to see that because,
Mhm.
like I said, it had a profound impact on me. Actually, I mean, the through line that you're able to communicate in such a short amount of time was just so impressive to me. So I really do hope we get to see the future
Mhm.
fruition of that come to completion, man.
Yeah, yeah, I hope so too because I really, as so like I always say, like everybody's always like, oh man, Bloodline is it's my favorite work of yours,
Really,
and I'm
is
like,
that what most people say is their favorite
yeah,
currently?
most people tell me that. They're like, oh,
Mm.
Bloodline was really good, man. I enjoyed everything you've done with it. It felt very nostalgic. Like I loved your framing, I loved the coloring, and I was like,
Yeah, it's beautiful.
man, like I shot that in like 2 days, 3 days. I edited in one.
Mm.
I turned in my assignment early before anybody else did. Like if I wanted, I could have added more to that and made it longer and made it more, made it more of a full project in my eyes. But
Mhm.
I'm guessing that I'm guessing that the most simple stuff is what stood out to y'all, and I'm glad that it's the one that you guys enjoy the most. But when people tell me like, man, she's so amazing, I'm like, I don't know. I feel like my best work is yet to come. I don't know.
What would you say your best work that is currently out is then?
I I I don't know, man. I hate to put like a finger on that, but like
Hmm.
the one that I kind of had a lot of you know the one that I was really interested that I did is my most recent one is The Dead Don't Speak because it was part of an overall challenge that we did for a class. But like the fact that I could only write 2 pages of a script and make that film
Mm.
while also sticking to what I was trying to like say. So like for those of you who have not watched it that don't speak, it basically looks at a son who is supposed to attend a his deadbeat father's funeral, but throughout the film you're hearing his narration as he's thinking about why he even wants to go to this man's funeral if you never even knew him all that well and stuff. So then at the end there is the conclusion of what happens, and I'll let you guys watch it and find out.
And you guys should watch it. It's great as
Yeah.
well.
So I was just like, for that one I was just like, wow, like something that I did like 2 minutes was a pretty heavy film for me to tackle.
Yeah.
So I would say that even though that wasn't like the best showing of my cinematography capabilities and stuff like that, it was still one that I kind of surprised myself with. Honestly, I was like, wow, where did this one come from? Because I didn't think that I could make something like that.
Yeah, and I mean, going through all your short films and from your documentary to what's coming out, what I've seen of what's coming out and what you currently have out now, everything is just so different. Like you have a style, but I mean, the amount of stories that you're able to tell is
Mhm.
just insane. I think that your writing is very very strong, and I want to see like expansion of even more. Does that interest you? Expansion of more genres, perhaps?
Yeah, I mean, what's it called? I want to, I can only play around in drama for so long, right? Like
Yeah,
I don't want to limit myself to a box, right? Because I do. So I mean, I'll give you a little look into the vault. I mean, I have a crime thriller that I wrote that I'm still trying to expand.
awesome.
Um, I have a horror hybrid film that's like capped at like 45 pages right now that I
Oh
haven't
wow,
finished
okay, cool.
writing because I'm trying to make it feature length, possibly. Um, and then um, I have like nothing written, but it's like an idea for like an experimental type of film with little to no dialogue. It's just purely facial body language.
Okay.
So, I've played around in drama for so long, right? Even though Killing You was sort of really like kind of crime esque, but it was more, word based and more driven by the drama of the
Yeah.
crime. So I'm playing around. It's just that some of them just haven't made it to being done right now.
I understand. Do you have a dream project that you'd be willing to share that you hope to make one day?
It's that what's it called, horror hybrid.
Okay.
It's an erotic horror drama film. I really want to make it. I really want to make that. Like,
That
I
sounds awesome, by the
I
way.
think that one like is that's a Blumhouse or A24 picked up film for sure. Like,
I believe it, man.
because it's weird. It's weird. It comes from, I don't like. Once again, it's one of those films that I wrote that I was like, where the hell did this come from? Like, hell, like
The back of your head, man.
yeah, it
The
comes from the back
ideas
of your
spat
head.
out, bro.
Yeah, but it's basically about this woman who wants to kill herself because she, what's it called? She doesn't have any money anymore. She is divorced from her husband, so she goes to Mexico to blow out all the money that she has left. And then at the end of the day, at the end of the trip, when she's done with the money, she's gonna kill herself. But she meets a woman who she falls in love with, that is part of a sex cult, and it's like it's crazy. It's
Okay.
fucking nuts. Yeah, it's fucking nuts, man. So that's one that I really, really want to
Uh,
make. That's in my vault. But I also
wow.
look at, of course, the crime thrillers. I'm like, oh yeah, I want to make this soon. Like, I really do. But yeah, I think I need like 6 or 7 more pages to that to actually have a pretty concise film.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But a lot of stuff in the pipeline that we need to be looking forward to. Then I'm assuming.
Yeah. I can't tell you really what I'm thinking about doing after before I leave, because
Mhm.
I don't know, because like I said, I would love to, I like the one about my grandfather. I mean, his time is limited on this earth. I mean, when you get to those ages in your
Of
life, I
course,
mean, you
yeah.
have to kind of come to terms with your mortality. So I would say that I would like to do something like that soon, do
Mhm.
that one soon. But right now, I'm not really thinking about whether what's to come next. I'm kind of really thinking about finishing this one up and
Yeah.
maybe working on something in between. Um,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, man. I cannot wait to see. I hope that I really would love to see that continuation with your grandpa. I mean, obviously, this horror film that you're talking about sounds insane. It sounds like a
Yeah,
trip. So I would love to see it.
I need to add a couple more pages, like at least 30 more.
Mhm.
So,
And this is gonna be a feature, you're saying, right? As
yeah,
well.
I want this to
Okay.
be a feature.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
it needs more tweaking. It needs more stuff added to it. It's just that I've never made it past 45 pages. Like,
Mhm.
and even then, my professor would tell me, like, hey, man, back then in the day, the B movies capped at 60 pages. Like, and I was
Just
like, yeah, but I
crazy.
want to go more. I want to go more.
Yeah.
I want to do 90. I want to do 70. Like, even
Yeah.
though, of course, the rule is always that a page is a minute of film. It's like, yeah, but like, if I can at least get to 90, like, I can say, like, I have a pretty long story here that I can form and I can probably do something with,
Yeah. Man,
because it's
that
hard sometimes.
dude, right? I mean, writing it itself, because I haven't directed anything, but I've written a lot, and it's
Hmm.
tough, dude. It
Hmm.
gets tough, and as you go on, and like sometimes it's the worst when you have too many ideas as you go
Hmm.
on. You're like, well, this would be cool, but I would have to go back and edit this, and it just becomes a whole whirlwind. But
Hmm.
I mean, I commend you for being able to put out so many stories already. It's really impressive at your current age. It's
Hmm.
awesome. Um, I want to talk about where nerdcore and your show Cinema Condition fit into this. Where do they fit into the scheme of, let's just say, your current plans? But we'll touch on that next. But let's start with how you started nerdcore. When did that start? What made you want to
Hmm.
start nerdcore?
So Nerdcore started in 2017.
Mm,
I simply, like a lot of us in the space that we live in, we are like, oh man, I love watching these YouTube review
yeah.
shows. I love watching these things. I love watching that. Man, I can do that. Like, and I was like, yeah, man, I think I can do that. But I was always the person who was like, I can do it, but like, do I feel like I'm motivated enough? Do I feel
Mhm.
like people actually give a shit to want to listen to what I have to say? So, my best friend, I told him, like, hey, I want to do this. And he didn't even say, like, yeah, man, do it. He said, cool. He said, do it, bro. When do you want to record?
I
I
love
was like,
that.
oh shit.
I love that.
I was like, okay, it looks like we're actually kind of going into it. So we set up the date and we do it. But he went through some stuff. So he, what's it called? He dropped off the team for a bit. He comes back later on in the year, and I get my current co-host, who Brad, and we do this, and we kind of just from there we just kind of approached it. We were like, okay, we want to do these things. We want to talk about movies. We want to review movies. We want to discuss the news. We want to do all these wonderful stuff. And from there, we started from one little small show to like basically what you see now, which is a bunch of different stuff on that network.
Yeah, how many shows do you guys currently have on the network?
So currently, what we have running at the moment, we have the Nerdcore. So that's the main show where we do a month. Every month we have a theme. So every week we have a theme review that fits a review of a film that fits our theme. This month we've been doing the films of Federico Fellini because it's my month that I got to pick my director I wanted to talk about.
That's awesome.
So we did that. And then on Thursdays, we do a review of a film that's like come out during the week. Like this one was One Night in Miami. We wanted to talk about One Night in Miami. Before this one, we did Minari. Before that one, we did Nomadland. We did all those films. So we're like, okay, cool. Let's just talk about movies that are current. So that way we can actually have like more current, up-to-date reviews of films. And then we have, of course, on Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays, we do the live show, which is basically what happens when you give idiots microphones and you just let them play around for a couple of minutes, a couple of hours. And at the end, we talk about a news story and that's it. It's all she wrote. And then, of course, we have Cinema Condition Season 2 that's running right now. It's going well. I have recorded like 6 episodes already or 5. So those are scheduled out. Today came out the newest episode 2 of season 2 with Aaron. We talked about Fallen Angels. We have that running. I have an interview show that I have running, but it's been getting real hard to schedule people to guest on that.
It is so tough to schedule people, dude.
Yeah.
It is so tough. I get it, man.
And it's also like I feel like, I don't know if you feel this too, man, but like we want to keep chasing guests that it looks like it's just not gonna work right now. And somewhere in our head, we're just so stubborn, like, no, we can get them. We can get them. It's gonna work.
I have so many stories like that, man. I feel
at
that
this
completely.
Point, I just need to accept that it's just not gonna work. Go on to the next person on your list that you want to interview, because it's just not gonna work with this person that we're talking to right now.
And more often than not, it ends up working eventually. You just have to be willing to let it go sometimes, you know?
Yeah. So that's with the Impaired Files. Like, I'm just gonna have to move on. I'm gonna have to ask somebody else, and I'm sure that we're gonna get to the point where, like, you know, I'll be able to get that new show up and running. Right. We have a video game show, but just the video game space right now, there's like little to nothing about news about gaming.
Yeah.
It's like we really can't run a show. Yeah, it's pretty dry. We can run a show. Like that's the sad part. We killed the Nerdy Chicano show because I'm rebranding it into something else that I'll probably talk about at the end.
Awesome.
So we killed that show, and I want to. Oh, I'm sorry, my pro wrestling show. We talk about wrestling. It's called High Flyer Radio. I do that one on Saturdays. So like we do that one with another friend, and we had that show is running. It runs. Scheduling is hard between my friend and I. Mm-hmm. It's hard because we're busy, but it runs, and we have it going. It's just that it's tough right now to schedule things.
Yeah, man.
But that one's that. I have that one running, and I think that's it, honestly. Of course, if you don't count all the Patreon stuff that we do, right? You know, like the movie commentaries, my movie club that I do, the mini pods that we do on there. So like you have a bunch of Patreon stuff.
So you have a ton of content to listen to Raúl go on about movies and whatnot, and he will teach you guys. He will inform you.
Yeah.
I have a quick.
I have a lot on my plate.
Go for it.
I have a lot on my plate that I seem to keep wanting to add to my plate. I need to understand.
Yeah.
It's time to let myself kind of cool down. Like I just keep thinking like, man, add one more. It doesn't matter. Add one more.
Yeah, I see. I'm in the process right now of just beginning to, because I'm restarting this channel. So right now it's just me slowly like deciding what I want to put on my plate right now, and it's tough, dude. Like there are some ideas I have that I'm just like I want to do this so badly, but this will probably take out like days of my life at a time, like just to finish one video. You know, it's like it's tough. So Yeah, man. Yeah, first of all, I wanted to brief because you shocked me when you said this. I actually didn't know that you had a wrestling show, so I want to
Yeah,
divert to that real quick. Who's your favorite wrestler, man?
So I have a lot of favorites. If you ask me my favorite modern, I always
Sure,
say
let's try and do Shinsuke
Shinsuke
Nakamura is
Nakamura,
awesome. Yeah.
Shinsuke Nakamura, AJ Styles. Um, Fucking love Tanahashi. I love Tanahashi so much.
Are you a
He's
big
great.
ROH and New Japan guy, or are you more of like?
Yeah. I was a big. Now I barely even get time to watch much TV because I have to watch the stuff for the reviews. But like I was huge ROH and
That's
NJPW dude.
awesome.
Like I loved watching that a lot. I loved even though Jay Lethal is an asshole. I love Jay
Yeah,
Lethal in the
yeah.
ring. Jay Lethal was great.
He's awesome.
The Briscoes, there's a lot to discuss with the Briscoes that I'm not going to go into, but I'll just say in the ring, the Briscoes are great.
Yeah.
Outside of the ring, I don't know much about that.
Honestly, a lot of these stories about these older guys, it's like, it's rough,
Yeah. But, I've always loved, The Undertaker, what's it called? Triple H. A lot of those guys, you look back at the time that we started getting into it.
Yeah.
It's like, oh yeah, the guys who were like, who are now part time, but at that time were pretty much full time.
The mains.
On the road
Yep.
and stuff.
Yep.
Yeah. But yeah, I love those guys. I always loved wrestling. It's always been something I really enjoyed. I took a break from it at a specific time, and then I reapproached it, and I was like, oh yeah, I love this still.
Yeah, I need to get back into it. I haven't seen wrestling really like consistently for like past like 2 or 3 years maybe, but whenever I hear a wrestling fan come on, I have to ask because I used to be head over heels over wrestling. My favorite wrestler is Christian still to this day. No one knows why. Everyone always asks why Christian, but he's the boy. I love him, Christian Cage.
Christian's great, man.
Yeah,
Christian's great.
Thank you, bro. Thank you for understanding the love.
Yeah.
I want to wrap up
even
this
his TNA character, man.
Dude, okay,
even TNA character.
Christian Cage was awesome. I agree, dude. Okay, I'm gonna say this right now. We're gonna have you back on again for sure, and we got to talk like a full wrestling episode or something about like our history.
Yeah, I got you, bro. I got you.
We got to.
I might even bring my friend on with me because he loves this stuff too.
Absolutely, we got to really get into it.
Christian Cage was freaking awesome.
Yeah, man. Wow, that made me so happy, Raul. You have no idea. Love Christian Cage.
Yeah.
Jumping into like wrapping up this episode, we both talked about this beforehand too. There are so many, like I said earlier, you've introduced me to so many films that I need to put on my watch list or that I've seen at this point now. I just wanted when I reached out to you to do this episode, the main thing I wanted to wrap up with was just recommending some foreign films to people that either are, might be scared of subtitles or just haven't delved into them yet. Someone that is eager to, that doesn't know what to watch, where to start. We can just go back and forth. I got 5. I'm assuming you got 5 as well. If you want to start with the first one, go for it, man.
All right, let me go ahead and pull it because I did my homework. I looked.
I love it.
I have a list on Letterboxd. It's like my favorite foreign language film list. So I was like, I went through that and I was like, I had to break it up into stuff that is easily accessible. I don't want to throw you in there. I don't want to give you Andrei Tarkovsky's Stalker. I'm not gonna give you that. Like I'm not gonna give you a 2 hour and 50 some minute movie where it's like incredibly philosophical and stuff. Like, no, I can't do that to you. Like, you're barely gonna start diving into this. I can't really throw you into the sharks. Like, the first one I wrote down here, man, is one of my favorite films of all time. This is one of the most beautiful films you'll ever watch. It is a movie about the love of movies, but also growing up and love and all those beautiful things that we experience as children as we go through this journey as becoming adults. That is Giuseppe Tornatore's 1988 film, Cinema Paradiso.
I have to see this. I have to see this.
Love this film more than anything. It's 2 hours and like 5 minutes. It's beautiful. It's a film that has my favorite score of all time from Ennio Morricone. It's beautiful. It's a film that never fails to make me cry. And it's a movie that is just a love letter to cinema.
Wow, man. That description in itself sounds like everyone should just watch it, whether or not they're seeking foreign films or not. At that point, I mean, that just sounds awesome. The first film I'm gonna recommend is one that I just recently actually got to check out. I've only seen it once now. It's The Wailing, man, from South Korea. I mean, this movie absolutely floored me. It's a South Korean horror film.
So good.
It is so freaking good, dude. And I was shocked. I mean, I didn't really know a lot about it going in, other than people saying, you know, this is something that you need to see. I put it on at 11 at night, which was probably a mistake.
Yeah, 'cause that's also a 3-hour movie.
Yeah, so it's a mistake in the sense that I had to be awake until the very wee hours of the day, morning or evening, however you want to look at it, either early morning or late night. And it was terrifying, full of a lot of funny moments too, sprinkled throughout. It's beautifully shot. And I would say it's fairly accessible for like anyone that's interested in horror films in general. Other than the length, it's a bit long. And it just floored me. I mean, we watch a ton of movies. I don't know if you could speak on this a little bit, but it shocked me. Like, I was genuinely surprised consistently throughout that film.
It's so good, dude.
Yeah.
I didn't expect. So like when I approached it, I was like, you know, I've never watched Korean horror before, so I'm like, let me see what this is all about. I did not expect to love it as much as I did.
Yeah.
I was like, this is so good.
Yeah.
This has like, on paper, this has no business being this good. Like, no way is this as good as it was. For you to start at 11 and finish it,
exactly. It says something about just how brilliant that film is. And yeah, I mean, even when they introduce certain elements of the story, you could kind of like feel like we may be retreading like familiar territory at certain parts, but then it completely, again, every time you start to kind of get comfortable with the movie or start to feel like, oh, this is something I may have seen before, it completely just turns on its head again, and it's awesome.
My next one was one that I was introduced to in 2019. Beautiful film. Has one of, if not the best ending to a movie you'll ever see.
Oh, wow. Okay.
This is a Christian Petzold's German film, Phoenix, from 2015. It's basically a woman who, who is a Holocaust survivor, and she is coming back to Germany after the camps are liberated, and she is trying to find her husband, who she was taken from, and she's searching for him, but she finds out a couple of things about her husband, and it becomes quite the story. But it's a really interesting film to pair up side by side with Alfred Hitchcock's Vertigo.
Really? Okay.
Because it's all about the image that men, paste onto women. And I cannot keep talking about it. That ending is amazing.
Wow.
I goosebumps. My hairs are standing up as I'm talking about it because I'm remembering it frame by frame. It is an incredible ending. It's 98 minutes. Don't worry about it being too long.
Wow.
It's great. It is really good.
I need to check this out because I just saw Vertigo for the first time last year in the film class. Yeah. So I might have to do a double feature and sit down and do that, man. That sounds awesome.
It's really interesting how it kind of pairs up with it. So I would definitely recommend you all to watch Vertigo and then watch Phoenix right after.
Awesome, man. That is a double feature that I'm going to save and store in my mind. I'm going to do it for sure. I'm going to let you know how it goes. My second film is a Indonesian film, and it is actually a sequel. So this is kind of cheating because then you would kind of inherently have to see the first one. But the second one is just so much better that I have to recommend it. The Raid 2. Probably one of my favorite if not my favorite action movie of all time. One of my favorites. It stars Iko Uwais, who has been in a lot of American movies now. Actually, he was in Force Awakens. He also was in that Mark Wahlberg, not so great movie, Mile 22, that came out a couple years back. But this movie actually utilizes talent to the fullest extent. And they kind of, with the first one, it's a very simple story. Many people compared it to Dread, where you're just ascending a tower and you're trying to fight these crime bosses or whatever. But it's a heavily martial arts heavy film, and it's awesome. The second one infuses that with like kind of a Scorsese-esque, gang drama in the middle of all this martial arts madness. And Man, when I say that it's like hypnotic action, it really is. You can't take your eyes away from the brutality of it at times. It is shocking. If you could stomach very graphic action, this is a movie that I would recommend. And it has for sure my favorite fight scene of all time. Maybe not my favorite action movie of all time, but my favorite fight scene. There's a fight scene in a kitchen that happens toward the later bit of the film that is just amazing. So I would definitely, I mean, I'm sure you've seen both films already at this point. It's awesome.
I have not watched them. I have access
Really?
to them.
Really?
But I'm
Okay.
gonna watch them. Yeah. I have heard the praise for The Raid more times than I can count on my fingers.
I'm sure. Yeah.
But they're movies that I need to get to watching. I have access to them.
Let me know what you think of them. Let me know what you think of them. You got to check them out. And I think if you do it in a double feature, the second one works. It's a little bit long to do them in a double feature, but the second one just works so much better once you get the first one fresh in your head. So definitely let me know if you check it out.
Mm-hmm. My third one is a film that came out in 2019. One of the most beautiful films that I watched, that was kind of a movie that I assigned to my cast to watch.
Oh, okay.
And I was like, I don't want to portray it like it's in this film, but I want to show you a film that doesn't implement the male gaze upon its cast, even though, because like I'm gonna say it, what's it called? Ammonite from last year, even though, you know, most of that choreography was done between two women, was incredibly male gazy. And it was directed by a man.
I didn't finish it. I'm not saying it's a terrible movie or anything like that, but you could definitely feel that that big time.
So my film to recommend you all is French film, Portrait of a Lady on Fire from 2019. Amazing. From director Celine Sciamma. Incredible film. If you want to check out her more earlier works, she is just an incredible director. And it's hard to believe that she only has 3 movies under her belt. Like when you watch her films, you're like, oh no, this is a seasoned director. Like this is a director that should have like at most 15 to 20 films under their belt already.
Oh, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Portrait, I mean, it's like I saw it twice last year. And I mean, talk about endings, dude. That is one of, and personally for me, that is one of my favorite endings of the past probably like 5 or 6 years. It's I mean, it's a breathtaking movie from the moment it starts, really. And I mean, it honestly leaves me speechless. And I wanted to put it on my list too, because I gave it 5 stars. I gave it a perfect score. It's amazing. Mm-hmm. I kind of wanted to venture out of the maybe some films from the past that people haven't heard of. I feel like that was a little bit more of a more popular one, but I'm glad that you brought it up because someone had to. Yeah. My next film is another French film actually, and it is not for the faint of heart. I feel like I'm just picking like horrific movies, but this is a 2019 film, I believe, directed by, and I'm going to try and say his name. Raúl, you probably know how to say his name better than I do. Gaspar Noé. Is that how you say it?
Gaspar Noé, yeah.
Gaspar Noé's Climax, man. Dude, first of all, I had seen
That's my favorite modern director, man.
Really? Oh, well, I'm glad that we're talking about him. I've only seen Irreversible one time and for a film class as well, and it was, I mean, I'm sure everyone already knows what happens in that movie, so we don't really need to talk about it too much, but it is horrifying, and it is, I mean, it's a brilliant movie. It is a perfect movie that is incredibly hard to sit through, and if you could stomach it, I commend you. I wanted to recommend that one, if I'm being honest, but I took it.
It is hard to recommend that one.
Yeah, exactly. I took it 1 notch down, barely, with Climax. Yeah. It is a film that, I mean, just the film, we don't even have to get into the story, really. Just the filmmaking aspect of it. Mm-hmm. There are some long takes in this movie, really long. I'm sure that you know more about the production of this film than I do, but it is stunning to look at. I was searching for a cut. I was searching for a camera trick of some sort, and they were nowhere to be found. And then I learned that much of the movie is actually improvised as well, which is insane to me. It's a darn good movie, almost perfect if you can stomach it. It's very messed up. It's basically a trip gone wrong, basically, if you want to just surmise it, with a lot of dancing and great acting. And if you can handle it, I would recommend it. But I want to hear your thoughts on it, Raúl.
Oh, that was for the longest time my favorite movie of that year
Hmm.
that I watched it. First of all, I am always a firm believer. If you as a director are asking for such a tough job to be done, you better be ready to put your hand into that camera when you see that your camera operator is having a hard time.
Yeah.
And guess what? That's what Gaspar did. He was like, "Nope, I'm helping my camera operator for this 42-minute long take that I'm doing." So if I'm asking for a film to be done, for a shot to be done, and like we're like, "Hey man, let's go ahead and play around." So like in my mind, because I do not have a feature, what's it called, under my belt. In my
Mhm.
mind, if I say, "Hey man, I want to do this shot for like 10 minutes," and we're gonna keep going
Yeah.
uninterrupted, I better be ready to help out my what's it
Yeah.
called, my DP, my camera op. There's no way I would have to put them through that. That movie is incredible. Sophia Boutella is amazing in that
She's
film.
brilliant in that movie.
And the
Yeah.
other dancers who are basically non-professional actors are incredible too. And just the way that Gaspar approaches storytelling is so interesting because he's not a director who wants too much control. He really wants to get into the spirit of what filmmaking is, and it's a collaborative experience. So I really do appreciate him for what he does with his movies,
Yeah.
and that movie is just
It's
it's
magnificent,
it's
really.
it's heaven and hell split into two different halves.
That is the best way that you could describe that, honestly. Yeah,
Hmm.
it's a trip to watch it, and like the anxiety that you feel watching this is incomparable, I think, to the majority of movies I've seen. It's insane.
Yeah. My next one is by a filmmaker who I believe everybody should be watching because god damn if this man isn't one of the greatest filmmakers right now. I mean, when you look at this country, you're always like, oh, Bong Joon-ho, he's one of the, I mean, of course he is one of the best, and you should check out Bong's films.
Yeah.
But Park Chan-wook is on
I
a
was
different,
hoping you would
yeah,
bring this man up. Yes.
Park is on a different level that
I
I
agree.
don't that I truly like. You look at his Vengeance trilogy, and you look at a lot of his other work, like The Handmaiden, and it's like, God, Park is on a level that is just so hard to
You could even
understand.
talk about his Stoker. I mean, his one like
Yeah,
venture into American films is brilliant too.
yeah.
It's insane.
He is basically what and I say this. I know it's like a really hard statement to say, but like I think of Park as I think as Park with South Korea as I think of Wong Kar Wai with Hong Kong.
Wow. I
Park Park
respect that
Park
choice.
So I want you all. I'm recommending his 2000 film Joint Security Area. I think that if that the way to kind of get into Park is not by going deep into the stuff that he's already that is famous for. I think you start with Joint Security Area, which is not a very like out there film of his, and then from there, of course, you kind of go into his Vengeance trilogy, and then you can go into his other work. But I think you kind of got to start at that, not at the beginning, but like at the stuff that's like the most simple, so
I
that
agree.
way you don't look at his more stylistically kind of extravagant work. It's not where he starts breaking rules, right? Like
Yeah.
if it's something about The Handmaiden, I'll tell you this: he breaks a lot of rules with that camera.
Oh
He
yeah.
breaks a crap ton of rules with that camera.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't tell you all to like kind of just dive into that first head on. I kind of would have y'all start at like the beginning to
Mhm.
see how his work progresses.
Yeah, and I mean, what a great choice. I haven't seen that film in a really, really long time.
Yeah.
But I mean, talking about even like you just brought up Handmaiden, I mean, I mean, we could do a whole episode of just his movies. I mean, or Wong Kar Wai, right? And they're
Yeah.
almost all perfect in my opinion. So
Yeah.
yeah, brilliant. My next one is probably my most accessible one on this list. It's very recent. It just came out last year. It's a Danish film. I don't know if you got the chance to see it yet, Raul, but Another Round. I really
Not yet. I have access to it.
it's really, really good, man. It's definitely the most accessible on my list that I've mentioned so far. Basically about four teachers. It's a dramedy about four teachers basically trying to maintain their blood alcohol content level slightly below the legal limit, just to improve the betterment of their lives, both in their workspace and their emotional space, mental health space. And it is a fascinating film. I wouldn't say in terms of the shot composition or the direction, it's anything that you haven't seen before. But the writing and the characters and the acting are all top notch. And the way that they balance the tragedy of this story, as well as the negative effects of consistent alcohol consumption, is very realistic and very. It never took me out of the film. The tone shifting it felt like this is a real story. These are just people living, and we have a camera on them, and we're just watching them go. And this is probably Mads Mikkelsen's best performance I've seen from him, an Oscar-worthy performance, I would say, as well. And another movie where, one of my favorite endings of last year. Probably not, like, I couldn't say the same 5 or 6 years I said for Portrait of a Lady on Fire, but for sure last year, one of the best endings. Absolutely.
Yeah, I gotta check that one out, man. I have it on my, I have access to it, so I just need to get to watching it soon, because yeah, it's one of those that it's also it's the best entry. What's it called? It's not the best entry. It's one of the entries for best international feature for this year. So yeah, usually I try to watch all the ones that I can. Like, some people are like, oh, I watch all the pictures, all the best picture nominees. I'm like, yeah, I don't really care about that. I'll watch the national feature nominees, and I'll try to watch most of the entries. So I have that one there because that's Denmark's entry. So
yeah, you gotta check it out, man. It's great.
Yeah, I'll check it out. So I promise I would not give you all only accessible films, but I'm going to give you one that is going to be a little bit hard for you to find.
Okay.
You'll be able to find it on Amazon Prime, but I believe that one is not the full 3-hour cut of the film. So it's going to be hard. So I'm sorry, guys. I'm going to give you a 3-hour movie.
This is actual homework now, guys.
But I'd be damned if I didn't introduce you all to Emir Kusturica, the Serbian director.
Okay.
This is his film, his 1995 film, Underground. It is basically, which in Serbian it translates to Once Upon a Time There Was a Country. It's basically a detailed look at Yugoslavia during World War II and up to the what's it called, the Yugoslavian War, civil wars, and it's in really interesting depiction of classism, but also really interesting commentary on Cold War relations at the time, and basically this kind of a blanket that we put over a bunch of countries, and we labeled them as dangerous, hostile places when a lot of imperialistic nations weren't giving them the chance to kind of flourish. So it's really interesting. Phenomenal score from Goran Bregovic, and one of my favorite movies that I discovered last year. But it's 3 hours long. But I'm telling you, those 3 hours go like that. They go like that. Fantastic movie. And especially for those of y'all who are fans of like history and learning about history, because at one point I was a history minor, and my area of concentration was more so on the Cold War times. So, the story of Yugoslavia was really interesting to me and what went down there. So it's a really interesting film. I'm going to tell you a little, like, I don't want to explain to you too much. I would love for you all to just dive into it.
Wow.
And watch it. I believe if you look for it on YouTube, there will be like a free uploaded version of it with the actual full 3 hours with like English subs. But if you look hard enough for it, you'll find it.
Yeah. Okay. That's another one where I got to add to my watch list, man. I mean, the way I can see the passion in your eyes when you just talked about that one. And I that might be one I have to watch this weekend or something like that. I mean, really.
Yeah. Emir Kusturica is a really interesting guy. Yeah, what's it called? I watched that one, and I also watched his 1988 film, Time of the Gypsies. It was a really good film too. So he won the Palme d'Or for Underground.
Oh wow!
So yeah.
Okay, I definitely gotta check this out. All right, man. My last one is I watched this. This was my first film I watched this year. Much to the encouragement of Raúl, actually, in diving back into Wong Kar-wai's filmography. I haven't seen all of his films. I still haven't, and I'm eager to be doing that over these next couple months. But I watched As Tears Go By, and it is awesome. when I first watched it, I'll be honest with you. I think when I watched it and it immediately ended, I went, okay, that was good, and I just, left it be. But when I began to think about what the themes of the film are, and there are scenes in it that everyone says live in my brain rent free. That's the new, thing that people are saying. This is the movie that lives in my brain rent free. It's not my favorite movie by any means, but wow, I mean,
Yeah.
This is where his style is the very dawn of it is showing in it, and it's hypnotic, man. And all the acting across the board. I mean, Maggie Cheung's in many of his movies. She's beautiful and great as always. Yeah, absolutely. Everyone in that movie is awesome. Andy Lau's great. It's just a crime gang movie about friendship, and about trying to, be good enough, and it just struck a chord with me. It's just an amazing film, and it's probably one of the more accessible ones on our list too. I mean, it isn't anything, story wise or content wise that would be hard to watch or difficult to see. So I definitely go and check that out. It's pretty easy to find too, I would say.
Yeah. I recently, like last month I watched that one too for the first time. I was like, oh, it's incredible.
It's incredible.
Going through Wong Kar-wai's filmography is just, it's a treat, and it makes me sad because I'll never be able to what's it called, to watch that for the first time again.
Yeah.
So, it's like when I watched Chungking Express for the first time, like I want to go back to the feeling I had just finishing that and being like, wow.
Dude, Chungking especially, really. I mean, that's another one. I mean, we could have basically recommended his whole filmography, to be honest. But that one is, I mean, hypnotic is the word to describe that movie more so than this one, honestly.
I mean, the man, it's himself. His work is just so incredibly hypnotic. Yeah. It's just, I'm looking at that Criterion box set like I want to.
Oh yeah, man, me as well. Me as well.
Yeah. So, yeah, those are my 5, man. Those are my 5.
Yeah, man. What a great episode. What a great way to wrap up. I mean, if you guys end up checking out some of these, please leave it in the comment section below or tweet at us and let us know that you saw them. Raúl, thanks for coming on, man. Anything you want to plug before we sign off here, my brother?
So I got a couple of things, of course. I'm the Nerdy Chicano on both Instagram and Twitter. I'm on there. I'm on Instagram. I post a lot of photography. On Twitter, I talk about a lot of movies. That's usually how it goes. You don't really get much out of me other than that. Excuse me. I do a bunch of podcasts, the Nerdcore, anchor.fm/the Nerdcore. We just started Cinema Condition Season 2. Our debut episode of Season 2 was Portrait of a Lady on Fire with my wonderful friend Alex Almeida. We just had our recent episode with Aaron Brooks on talking about Wong Kar-wai's Fallen Angels. So you can listen to all that wonderful stuff on anchor.fm/the Cinema Condition. But most importantly, I would love to send you all over to my YouTube channel. Just look my name up, Raúl Alejandro Mendoza. Make sure you put that accent mark in the U, because you're going to find a couple of other different people. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. I'm starting a show in February called The Nerdy Chicano Live. I basically just live stream a show on Wednesdays at 1 p.m. At 2 p.m. And we have a guest over and we talk about life and we talk about what's been going on, our creative endeavors and what we've been doing around our time being spent indoors. And we just have a conversation about whatever we want to discuss. It's nothing's limited. There will be no movie news. I don't want to. At this point, I've talked so much movie news. I'm tired.
I feel you, man. I mean, I try to do a phase, not to interrupt you, but I mean, I'm sure we've all tried to do phases of just covering movie news, and it just gets rough after a certain point,
Yeah, it's just I don't want to do it for 3 damn shows all the time. Like I do that on the weekends for the live show, and that's where I want to leave it at. For this one, I want to talk with people. I want to get to know them. I know them because they're my guests. I want my audiences to get to know them. I want to talk to them about, what's going on in their lives and, how they're feeling and the world around them, the creative world around them. And that's really what we're going to be doing on there.
That sounds exciting, man. I can't wait to see what you guys come with. And please, like he said, please go check out his YouTube channel, because Raul's got all his shorts up on there, his documentary that we talked about on here. And how could they, if you're going to be doing donations for before I leave, or when are you going to be doing that? Do you have any time frame?
I have to talk to some people, but I will be, as always, I have a domain. It will always link to beforeIleavefilm.com.
Okay,
So
perfect.
that all of that, I'll keep you guys updated on when that will probably be being redone. I'm gonna be real honest with you. I don't know if Indiegogo lets me do a second, what's it called, a fundraiser.
Okay.
So if that's the case, I will probably have it linked to like a possible Kickstarter
Mhm.
or a GoFundMe. I don't know. At this point, I need to know what are the steps to take. So it will always be linked through beforeIleavefilm.com. So
Okay.
that's just keep it as easy as I can for y'all.
Definitely, man. Thanks, Raúl, man. I appreciate it coming on, man. It was an absolute delight to get to know a little bit more about you and get into your brain and also talk film with you, man. It was so much fun.
Of course, bro. Whenever you need me, I'm here.
Absolutely. I
It's
appreciate
just we
that.
schedule it on the time that it works for both of us.
Yeah.
And I promise I will put aside time to do these things with you.
Well, I appreciate it, man. Thank you. Thank you guys for coming to watch. Any support is always appreciated. Please like, comment, subscribe. As always, you could find me at Michael Chu for real on Twitter. I believe I'm just Michael Chu _ on Letterboxd. I'm not, obviously this year I'm going to try to review more movies, but I'm not going to be able to review everything. So Letterboxd is going to be the place to see. I write out all my reviews. So that's the place to read up on everything that I'm watching. Yeah, and that's pretty much it. Instagram is at Michael Chu _, and that's where you can find me. I don't really post much movie stuff there, just my personal life. But if you want to, check that out too, there it is. We got episodes coming down the pipeline, like I said. These are I'm trying to backlog a couple of these just so I could start pushing them out with on the side with other content. You know what that's like. I mean,
yeah.
I want to actually get started on the channel this year and put reviews and some long form video essays and stuff like that. So I got to get some stuff in the tank, some long form conversations in the tank, man. So I appreciate you guys for watching. Please stay tuned. Like I said, please go to all Raúl's links. They will be in the description below. Thanks for watching Chew on This, and I will see you guys on the next one.